There we go. It is Hawaii, you know? So, all right, let's see, John. Need this now. Okay.
Lights, camera, action.
All right, action!
I think I wanted to just make a short video for my students.
Okay.
I just do this three-year training called REPA program.
Yes.
So I'm just doing this teacher training in spiritual field. And then in the second year of the training is that in the beginning we do 4 months of practice of sleep yoga. And then we do like a 4 months of lucid dream practice, and then we do 4 months of dream yoga.
Yes.
And I think that most of students now they are practicing that lucid dream, and some of them already practice dream yoga. So I'm here in Hawaii, the Hawaii Island retreat,
Yes.
and I'm here with Dr. Stephen Leberg.
The way I pronounce it, like air, like bears. It's tricky, but however, it works for you because all of that I don't come closer. Yes, if I try the Tibetan. Thank you.
So I'm doing here, we were 7 days or 8 days?
8 days.
8 days here retreat. And I believe that the dream, the lucid dream, whatever the research that in the West kind of done all this research, maybe really kind of support. It would be very helpful for the dream yoga practice.
Yes, I hope so. That would be wonderful.
Right, yes. So can you just a little bit introduce how the journey was at the beginning for yourself? And
Well, for me, I had taken an interest in consciousness at a kind of late stage in life, not until I was 19 or 20. I was very much a scientist and interested in, I thought the only kind of knowledge was about the world and how things work there, and I didn't appreciate religious thought, which is all I knew of the inner life then would have been the Roman Catholic Church, for example, and the rigid belief structure there. And so in contrast, I was following the way of science, but had experiences in California in the late 60s that opened me to inner experience, and that there was a world of knowledge and possibility inside. So I practiced, explored different techniques, and took an interest in several forms of Buddhism, studied Carl Jung and did yoga, and just sampled everything. Yes, and a part of that in the early 70s, I was particularly interested in Tibetan Buddhism. It appealed to me as a very sophisticated system of development, and more, in terms of psychological than religious, which also has that component clearly. And I took a workshop at the Esalen Institute in Big Sur with Toklam Tulku, and I'm not sure why, other than I was interested in the whole thing, especially. But on the weekend, he said, "This dream." That was it. This dream. He was freshly arrived in the U.S. His English wasn't very good, but that was the thing he said again and again. This dream. So he taught us the Guru mantra, and so interesting, I think. Say Om Mahum Vaja Guru, etc. And he says, "You explain." That was wonderful, because this is the way he would take people's small understanding and say, here's a thing that you can, a challenge, explain it, meaning that you're going to have to understand it, take the time. But the one thing, this dream, to attempt to maintain a continuity of perception throughout the 24 hours. So the state we're in now, there's something about it that is the same that's the state when you're asleep in bed in a dream. And so I wanted us to feel what's the sameness about that. And I found it was a very stimulating exercise. I remember in those days we got around by hitchhiking from Big Sur, 100 miles up the coast to San Francisco where I lived. And I remember on the way back just feeling that somehow the world had expanded. It was strange. It was such a powerful meditation on the continuities, the same stuff, dream stuff somehow. Then on the first or second night after that, I had that dream of climbing K2, dressed like this, and this is a dream, and flew off the mountaintop. And so that was kind of, it stimulated me then thinking about that dream, that it was, how could the reality that I experienced there be simply in my mind? Because that's what it must have been, because I'm asleep in bed. So I really wanted to understand how that could work. And that was so a strong stimulus right there to do so. And you know the famous quote from Mallory about mountains. People want to know, why do you climb Mount Everest, or why do you climb Mount Analog? But why? And in my case, the reason to climb K2 is because it's not there. His response was, of course, because it's there, but in this case, because it isn't there. But how can it be so real when I know it's not really there? Says that the external world is not the source of the reality sense. So
that what we call the lucid dream in rest, that we have been researched, and now almost more than 40 years. And
yes.
So, what do you think awakening in a dream, like a lucid dream? So, I heard it. Of course, it helps. There is a kind of therapeutic kind of element there. For example, nightmares and all those things. But what do you think? What is the highest benefit of lucid dream? What the Western kind of belief in, or how they are taking it?
Well, one thing is that the usefulness of any tool. It's a tool. It's a way to gain access to states that you might not otherwise be able to reach. And the use of a tool depends on your purposes, what you have in mind. So I would say that there are purposes for some people that might not be mine, but I wouldn't want to say they're not important purposes. That said, what, in my view, the aspect of lucid dreaming that is the most significant, the deepest, the most important is the fact that it opens us to call it the spiritual quest, to the one can address directly the nature of experience. That there's a kind of metaphor, you can see set an analogy between as we'll take lucid dreaming is to non-lucid dreaming, then so is the ordinary state that we find ourselves in to another state, a lucid waking state, that has something in common with the concept of enlightenment, that there's another kind of way of being in this world that you might also say being fully in it and engaged, but not of the world. So it's being in the dream, but not of it. And that special state one has in a lucid dream, you are fully a part of the dream. You're immersed in it, so the world around you, this is the dream. Here I am, I'm in this world. So if Stephen were asleep in bed now, he would still experience himself here, sitting on a couch, talking, as if I'm contained in this world. Yet, he would also know that all right, maybe I feel contained in it, but isn't this all contained in my mind, in the mind of a sleeping dreamer, right? And so this world that contains me is containing the world.
Right.
You know, it's so there's a meta stage going beyond the state we're in to a different level. Gives meaning of a different kind to this level. So I don't leave this state, you know, I wake up, but I stay in this state, but with a new, broader perspective that gives me abilities to do things that I wouldn't otherwise have done. It's like it widens your horizons. And so, for example, you realize, you can say there's something that you're afraid of doing, but you can overcome the fear with the realization that it can't really harm you. It's simply I'm letting fear block me, so I can use that knowledge to help develop. So the general sense is this special connection with waking up to another level, to expanding our state of being to include more than we ordinarily do, because we think we're awake. We think this is it, this is awake, and that's a kind of a sleep where we then block further development. Just as when you think you know something, you don't learn it, because I already know that, right? So, yeah.
So do you think like everybody should kind of at least once in a lifetime practice this lucid dream, or do you think it's really not for everyone, just maybe for a particular, I don't know, or is it really good for everyone?
Well, I think the reason, all the reluctance I would have to say everyone should do it is I know that not everyone has the same kind of interests. There are people who just would find, it just sounds kind of weird to me or something. Like my dear father, he's 100 years old tomorrow, the next day, right? And he's a very different person than I am. And he just doesn't get why I care about lucid dreaming and why I put my career into this. Why didn't I become a physicist and do something real, And there are people that are very practical minded and they think just of the society they find themselves in and supporting what has been done and not what could be done. So there are strong individual differences, and some people will not find it that useful. But I think for anyone who has let's say, the potential for a spiritual development, here's something that has the potential for spiritualizing people who would not otherwise get there. So, for example, you can imagine someone being attracted to lucid dreaming, let's take a teenage boy, for that, hey, I can have any of the girls I want, or I play video games, I can do all this stuff, right? So that's what attracts him. But then discovers that there's something more in it. Well, how does this work, And it goes from perhaps a lower level to a higher one by the occasion of the lucid dream. So I think for that reason, I can support almost anything that people do with the dream, as long as they learn from it. And so, because it's a pretty safe laboratory to test ideas out and ways of living, because there's no direct effect on anyone else. You're not going to hurt anyone, right? So I think we can't get safer than that. So I think we ought to be teaching our children to have that as a capacity. What experiment with life? Please do it in a lucid dream, right? We're safe there and no worries otherwise. We have to be willing to give them more freedom than our culture does now, but also training and also guidance in that direction. So I think there's a great amount of potential in the lucid dream state that we haven't really more than scratched the surface, as they say, in this culture. And obviously the Tibetan dream yoga going back a millennia shows that, well, of course, in what to me is the most important area, there it is, deeply pursued. And so it shows it can be done. So that's very encouraging to me. now, but also training and also guidance in that direction. So I think there's a great amount of potential in the lucid dream state that we haven't really more than scratched the surface, as they say, in this culture. And obviously the Tibetan dream yoga going back a millennia shows that, well, of course, in what to me is the most important area, there it is, deeply pursued. And so it shows it can be done. So that's very encouraging to me too.
So do you think from the kind of lucid dream to bring into what do you call, I don't know, next stage or into the dream yoga thing? I'm sure you also did a little study or research in dream yoga. So what do you think, how kind of lucid dream in dream yoga can be kind of
Well, the curious thing, after tonight you would have a different answer for me to this, because you'll hear the rest of my approach of taking lucid dream content as an occasion to face, here is a person that I at first feel is bad, I want to get rid of, shadow figures, to embrace them, to accept them, to treat all dream figures as sentient beings, whether they are or not, but to treat them that way, treat them as worthy of love. And that attitude of acceptance of everyone, everything I find, is I feel it furthers the goal of integration, of being inwardly one, instead of sliced up into many little pieces of the part that I don't want, hasn't gotten accepted or reinforced. That's not me. I say I'm the part that gets rewarded, the good one. I do things right. It's other people who are wrong and bad. That distorts your mental model of the self in a way that is very bad for us and others. And so the fact that we can use lucid dreaming to work on that level, I think is very important. But the next thing is that, all right, you can do that, then what? Then, this is the first stages of dream yoga is to recognize the nature of the dream state, or to say, to become lucid, to be there. And then the next stages, as I read it, are find out that how it's transformable and how you can modify all the content, which teaches you that it's all modifiable. It's all, the nature of the dream is it's all mental stuff. It can be changed by mind. And yes, and all that is what comes directly, I think, from lucid dreaming, especially the next level that we'll be talking about tonight too, which is to say, dream couch, right? Dream wall, okay, and dream pillow, right? Yes, dream yogi, and what's this? This is a dream hand, a dream shirt, dream Stephen. So this, who I think I am, is a dream, an idea of me, not actually some solid entity. It's an idea, and that is transformative. It's not just the contents of the dream are all a dream, but I'm a dream as I have always perceived me, and as the me, that is, because there's another element that I think isn't dreamlike, and that so we can, by direct action and reflection on the dream itself, and really reasoning about the dream, understand that it's all like this. It all can be transformed, and that this experience right now, I can't just transform, the couch here by wishing it so, because the rules are somewhat different. But my experience of the nature of what I see and feel and where I am is the same as in the dream. And I said, for various reasons, including, where else would I experience my experience? It's in one place, it's the mind, or consciousness, you can say. And so then the next step after that is saying, here I am in the lucid dream state, and I've learned what I can easily learn pretty much by looking around and thinking rationally about the nature of my situation. But now I want to see, can I learn more? Is there something more that, it's not obvious by just looking around? How can I do that? And basically the idea of surrender, of saying, a part of me, let's say, has more wisdom than the part that usually is in control, which is called the dream ego or the executive self. But let's say there's a deeper part that has deep knowledge. Let's assume that exists. The same as the teacher who told me about I was going wrong with flying away from fear instead of facing it, working or whatever. And that was Idris Shah, a Sufi teacher. That's why I thought I could have him visit in a dream, because Sufis are known for doing that sort of thing. But the point is, there's some levels of wisdom available, and I want to be guided by them. So I'm opening myself to say, let this dream be an expression of that highest wisdom, or the highest. And if I could get myself into that openness, that frame of mind to say, what can I see? Show me, what can I learn? So it's very open-minded, open-ended, not a deliberate control, I want to do this thing. It's instead an opening. And had some very profoundly life-changing or worldview-changing, really, experiences that changed my view of what it is to be myself at the very core, what I was before I was and what I'll be after death, which is the same thing, at least in that view. And it came from a dream. And I don't know whether I should take about a minute to describe the dream I'm going to tonight. The dream starts with my driving in a little sports car I had down the beautiful country road, green hills like those. So it's a direct entry into the dream state, and I think, what a glorious state! It's so beautiful. And then I see on the side of the road up ahead a very attractive hitchhiker. This is sort of a theme in the culture of, picking up the hitchhiker and basically the story. But the thought I have then is, but this dream is supposed to be seeking the highest. Right? And at that little bit of renunciation, basically giving up the obvious pleasure for the highest, the car just started to fly upward with me in it. And as it flew further up, the car disappeared. And I found myself going through clouds with symbols of traditional religion, Star of David and a steeple and a cross, all religions in the clouds. And then I fly further and my body has disappeared now, just as the car fell away. And then I enter into a vast empty space and beyond the clouds. And it feels I'm amazed and astonished. It's a sense of homecoming. Emptiness sounds like a cold nothing, but it wasn't. It was almost the opposite of that. It was a sense of expanding to the entire empty space of the universe, and with this feeling that it was the entire cosmos was somehow perfect, just in the way it was. And I started singing songs of praise, and that songs of praise is something like, I praise thee, O God, somehow. But I didn't mean God, I didn't mean me, and those words didn't mean what they seemed here, but it expressed that sense of and resonating with the cosmos. But the thing that made the big difference is when I came back down. As I woke up from that, I said, wow, what was that? You know, because it was an answer to, I want a dream to show me the highest. But yet in a sense it was upward, but that's not the sense of highest. It was taking away different levels and paring down to the kernel that was the emptiness. And in that kernel, much more space inside than outside, or bigger inside. It was infinite. But the understanding I had as I thought about that dream, really unpacked it. What's it about? What is it showing me? Many things, including the necessity of renunciation, to having given something up. I didn't choose to do that, it just happened to happen. But it showed to myself my sincerity. Because if I said, oh, well, maybe later I'll do that thing, that wouldn't have been it. So I really genuinely wanted to experience this. Once that happened, the elements that fall behind me are the things that it's what my awareness is, where I'm seeing. So where right now is the source of being? Say where is the source of being, the origin, that somewhere, you know, if you even take the Big Bang, you know, say, well, where is that? And the answer became clear. It's here. Where else would it be? Right here. And that wherever you may be, but the here is then obscured by layer on layer on layer of desires, like the hitchhiker, the obscurations that come from the things that I think are important and I'm pursuing, you know, are there. And then, you know, perceiving the dog and perceiving all those other levels block seeing what's just here. That emptiness, that void, I guess you call it now. And it was clear to me that it was present always, but just not visible because of the kind of mind. And the other element that came clear to me then as I was thinking about the paradox of individual and unity, and how is it that we seem to be separate, different, yet another sense one. And I thought of it as from that change of perspective and returning home to the void. So here I am, call me this snowflake, a drop of frozen water, of course, but a snowflake, they're known, everybody knows, each snowflake is individual, right? Well, I don't know how we know that, but that's what they say. So here I am, look at this wonderful crystalline form. Don't you let my flakiness miss. So this is what we identify with. I'm this particular pattern, right? And you're falling into the sea of death. And what you think is that I'm about to be annihilated. I'm going to disappear, I'm going to melt, and I'll be nothing. That's what you think from the Western point of view of what death and annihilation would be. But when you hit the surface of the water, you experience an infinite expansion of your being as you remember that you are water. You are this one little droplet of frozen water, but what you really are is the sea, water itself, and that is what we all share in the metaphor. And of course it's a metaphor, it's not literally the case, but it's one that really captures the way that we can be essentially the same, yet can identify with the formal differences.
In a dream, like for example, we talk about Tibetan Buddhism. So there are like a kind of three type of dream. One is just happening, put it that way, happening within, like in a we call it brain or within the body. And another type of dream is which is sometimes it comes from the past life, for example. You're kind of entering into the past life. You can call it past life, subconscious or whatever, the deeper layer.
Past history in any case, yes.
Yeah. And then there are third kind of dream, which is like you're going beyond. Beyond in a sense, in the same time that you are meeting with another being in that dream realm, and you're having a real conversation with another being
Yes.
who is sometimes strangers, sometimes they're your parents. So what do you think like a dream is? Is it really just happening within the brain, kind of all these things, or do you have some, I don't know, in this 40 years of experience, is that like a past life things happening and then going beyond, I don't know, like a synchronicity?
I think I understand the question about what are the sources of dreams. Clearly, there are some sources that we can identify in recent experience, right? Because we have dream content day residue from things that just happen, right? And that appears. So we know that's one contributor. In my view, the dream is always a construction, though. It's always coming. You're building something that is a model of some bit of the world, and where you get the information to determine what you build can vary tremendously. And it's something like, while we're awake, we have the strong input from senses that then constrain what we experience. And you remove the sensory input, you can see much subtler influences. So in the exact image of the, if you look into the sky now, you don't see what's there, which is an uncountable number of stars, because of the one local star overwhelms your perceptions of the more subtle ones there. In the same way, in the dream state, when you have the sensory input that normally predominates, you remove that, then it opens the door to all kinds of subtler influence, some of which come from memory, from your mental patterns of what you can expect might happen, how things can work, your experience. And I would include in that, so when we say past lives, certainly Stephen's had a number of past lives in this one. I mean, in the last 70 years, I can think of about 7, really, that were different lives, doing different kinds of things entirely. I call them that. So in a sense, and we dream about those because we find ourselves back in high school or in a different situation than the one we're in now. Usually, unless we become lucid, we don't notice that here I am in that one again, but their surroundings seem appropriate. So we have the same kinds of concerns as we did in high school, if that's where it is. And,
so when I say like a past life, not from this life, it's more, sometimes people kind of dream, it's totally not really they watch movie or I don't know, novels, but they can speak that language, or they're totally in a different kind of.
So and I'm saying, I guess I don't think I've ever had. I certainly haven't had an experience that convinced me in any way of that sort. But I can see the parallel, is what I'm saying, to past lives. But it interests me. Past lives, woof woof woof. Is that Lynn coming? I think it might be Lynn. So don't bark, it's a friend. Yes, all right. Thank you for the idea of past lives, that is where Stephen is somebody else in a past life, but somehow there's a thread that identifies, it's Stephen plus a tattoo, or Stephen plus a middle name that's the same. But that's, I don't know, it feels like the identity is a bit too tight for me, because it's like, in that model I was in, snowflake, here's one frozen droplet. And when it falls into the ocean, it becomes the entire ocean, not a single, the microscopic entity that it is doesn't persist, not in that metaphor. Obviously, there are other ways it might. Say, maybe there's a little nucleation center that is what causes snowflakes to form in the clouds, and maybe that gets recycled and builds another one like it, which is different now. So I could see it's possible, of course, that we have different lives like this. But
did you meet anyone like who kind of remember their past life, or maybe can just say access to past life through the dreams? dream you and the whole is?
Well, I hear people that try to remember these things by hypnosis, etc. But it's again something where it's plausible but not compelling.
Okay.
And it's difficult. And I know there are ways that you could get pretty convincing evidence of this by special kinds of knowledge and all, but it's hard to control all that info. Because if you ask people about some out-of-body experiences, you'll hear people say, oh, well, I know. There's proof showing that you look and see things that you couldn't see otherwise, and you actually see them, they really are there and all that. The problem is when you investigate the details of stories like that, you find out not quite, because we redo stories to make sense to us, right? Our memories are revised constantly to fit what we think happened, and so it is hard to do scientific kinds of experiments on a case like reincarnation. So a person is, let's just say, same person in some sense, or some part of their being gets passed on to another person entirely. Well, aside from having to define which parts the person that would be, to find it happening, then there's the challenges of one, discovering when you think it has happened, but I think there are difficulties with seeing when it hasn't. But I'm not particularly skeptical about this at all. I mean, it's just I don't have any experiments, and I'm inclined to to say, well, okay, I'm open to seeing more.